From the Daily Mail, social studies teacher 24 is arrested for sending threat to Donald Trump Jr. and Charlie Kirk. They say Daniel Ashbes, 24, is accused of making online threats against the Republican figures while they were in the East Valley for a political rally last week. He was booked into the Tempe City Jail on October 17th, and police were made aware of his threatening messages sent in response to an automated messaging service for RSVPs to the rally at the local hotel. Detectives said that Ashbes, is that how you say it, admitted sending the messages during an interview. AZ Family reports. He faces 3 counts of threatening to cause physical injury to another person and 1 charge of using a phone to threaten or intimidate. I'm curious, where are the stories of the inverse? Where are the stories of right wingers doing things like this? I'm sure maybe there's something niche or otherwise, but this stuff happens all the time. I am concerned about what comes after this election, considering what we're seeing now.
Yep.
Tim, since this is your wheelhouse, I want to ask you a question. I was at January 6th all day, like I said before, and why did they let us stand on the front step of the Capitol building for so long?
And what do you mean?
So I was there all day, and for hours we were just standing outside of the building, right? And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I'm filming shit. And then it felt like as soon as they wanted to, they started mustard gassing us, and within 5 minutes, everyone was cleared. Why didn't they mustard gas us when we initially approached the Capitol building? Because there was police all around.
Well, I mean, this is actually, I have a funny story.
Talking about CS gas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
yeah, I'm not, whatever it is.
Yeah. So it's usually, CS. I'll tell you a story that Luke told me, but Luke could tell it better because he lived it. But this is a story he told me that they were at, I think it was like a G20 protest it might have been Pittsburgh. And all these protesters are in the middle of a park. And so they send a bunch of SWAT cops to line the park. And they're all standing there staring into the park because they're told to. And then they don't move. So eventually Luke said that he and his buddies, like all the other group, decided that they were done and they were going to leave. They all left and walked just between the cops who were lining the park. And those cops stood there lining the park with nobody there. That's it. And everybody was laughing, being like, why are they just standing there staring into an empty field now? Whatever, we're leaving. And it was because they didn't receive orders. These cops don't know, don't care. They're told, stand there, stay where you are. Wait for further instructions. And they go, okay. And then they all just stand there. And they're trained to do it. It's discipline. I mean, if they broke ranks, things would get ugly. But without leadership, that's all they're doing. So what happens? Well, there's a bunch of people standing on the lawn of the Capitol on January 6th. Nobody cares. And then someone gave an order to fire tear gas.
Okay.
That's how it goes.
I didn't know. Because they were shooting rubber bullets, and I was like, I got a clip of a guy who got a rubber bullet right through the cheek, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? They're shooting like rubber bullets. And then as soon as they hit us with the gas, everyone left, and I always wondered like why they didn't do that earlier.
Probably because, do you know what time they started firing tear gas?
The sun was setting.
Because it probably had to do with the, I think it was at 1:30 or something when people breached the barricades or breached the building around then.
They pushed over the little gate thing.
Yeah, on one side of the building they went. It could be related to that. But it's simple. Someone gave an order to do it. It was, I don't know. Maybe they realized that giving a tour to the Shaman and letting people come in and take selfies with cops was a bad idea, and they needed to switch what the narrative was going to be, so they started attacking everybody.
I think a lot about that Shaman, Jacob Chansley. I interviewed him. We've actually talked to him multiple times. He's a very cool guy. And how much worse things could have been if there wasn't a guy there that was kind of a symbol of peace. Like, he was telling people, stay calm, be cool. He served time for his experience there, but he calmed a lot of people down. And there was bits of violence. Ashley Babbitt lost her life. God, awful, awful. Some cops got hurt pretty bad, I've heard. Some people probably got roughed up, but Chansley was like continuously encouraging people to relax. And it could have been, I was talking to my father about, it could have been so bad, like bodies all over the place. And it was not.
There was a lot of voices of peace. I mean, I would encourage anyone who gets this completely shadow banned to go watch my video of January 6th street interviews where I was on the ground all day. A lot of people were not preaching a hateful message. I barely found anyone who was preaching a hateful message. It was relatively peaceful. I mean, I know they broke into the building and stuff, but
yeah,
it was very interesting to be on the ground there. And the video, I think, is very interesting.
You have a video on YouTube of it?
Yeah, of January 6th. The YouTube's taken it down and reinstated it multiple times for like hate speech, then for promoting violence, but it's still up now.
Cool. What's it called?
I think it's just called January 6th Street Interviews, something like that.
Did you have any like insight that came out of that personally?
I was just like, I was just shocked to see the media say like, this is a second 9/11. and just the verbiage that they used about the incident was kind of crazy to me because, you know, I was scared I've been more scared at like fucking Nelk rallies. I went to like this YouTube Nelk meetup where they're like throwing glass bottles. I was more scared at that than I was at January 6th. I was like chilling at January 6th all day. It wasn't like a very scary environment from my perspective. But then again, it's just anecdotal.
I'm pretty sure that these street takeovers are more dangerous and scary than January 6th.
Seriously?
Like January 6th was not good. Someone died, or someone was shot and killed. There are people I think one person fell off something climbing and fell. Someone got trampled. I mean, it was pretty bad. And it's a riot. Riots are not fun. But you look at some of these street takeovers and there's people shooting guns and they're swinging cars. There's a video of some guy like standing in the street and they do a donut and whack the guy with a tail. And
I was just with that guy this weekend, swear to God.
Oh, for real?
Swear to God, yeah.
I've seen that viral video.
And yeah, I was filming with them at another car takeover and they rammed a car into another car and then sped off. Like street takeover shit's crazy.
There's multiple videos.
Guys from Maryland
getting run over because they're doing spin outs in the street takeovers. There like tons of people have been run over by that stuff. Like it's really dangerous, and the police either can't do anything about it or don't do anything about it. And I mean that's I'm not going to say that it's worse than January 6th because January 6th is like a legitimate riot and stuff. But like I don't think that January 6th was even close to the way that it was portrayed, because I think the narrative that the left and that the government wanted about January 6th was it's the worst thing. Obviously, they said, you know, it's worse than 9/11 or it's as bad as 9/11. And they only did that so they could justify, you know, using authoritarian powers. You know, they could justify saying, oh, we need to put these people in jail. And that's why. And another thing that they did is when they put those people in jail, it was to frighten Americans. It was so that way people would be afraid of speaking out. People that are paying attention knew that there were a lot of people that were put in jail simply for talking. Right? There were people that didn't even go inside that were put in jail for exercising opinions that were unpopular.
Well, Owen Schroyer never went inside, and they arrested him. And at the sentencing, the document stated that he had said things online after the fact that warranted a prison sentence.
Mm-hmm. So what did I do differently than Owen Schroyer?
You were outside the building?
Yeah, I never went in the building.
I mean, maybe they'll come and arrest you.
No, I think it was about making a point with Owen. Honestly, I think it was really about
he was
making
InfoWars.
a statement. Yeah, he worked with InfoWars, and they were like, we're gonna make a statement so that people know, like, Alex Jones is a hot button. Now you see if you're cleared near Alex Jones, what can happen to you. And
there was there's that reporter, Steve Baker. Am I getting his name wrong?
I think that's the right name. Let me double check.
I feel bad if I'm getting your name wrong, buddy. But he went in with two other journalists. I believe it was two other journalists. One guy had a big camera and worked for a local TV station, and he was a legitimate reporter. They raided his house. There was him. He was walking around filming, and he's a reporter, and he got arrested and shackled. Then there was another guy who was a reporter who got no charges. But he wrote an article saying something like, inside with the insurrectionists.
Yeah.
And so the belief is because he called them insurrectionists, they said, okay, this guy's on our side.
Yeah, Steve Baker, he wrote for Blaze News.
He still does, doesn't he?
Writes for Blaze
Yeah, we just had him on recently.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he explained, and he believes that it was like a DOD level thing, that the intention at the highest levels was to get people to riot at the Capitol so that they could stage this.
It's such a basic tactic for a government to be
made all the
let's-
bleachers set up outside of the Capitol building.
Because it was a permitted rally.
Yeah.
They were allowed to be there. It's kind of crazy. And then Owen Schroyer got arrested for it. But what Baker was saying is that he believes the intention was to have this rally happen. The DOD wanted it to happen. That's why they didn't bring in the National Guard like Trump wanted. It's why the police are standing around in videos. You can watch. You watch the video. There's cops outside. They're doing nothing. They're letting people go in. There's videos of cops being shoved, and there's that brawl in one entrance to the building. But there's cops taking selfies with people and smiling. And so Baker was saying that he believes the intention was not to evacuate the building. There was a cop who, of his own volition, ordered the evacuation without orders, and he got in trouble. Not for that specifically, but people think that's why. He believes that the DOD was hoping a politician would get hurt in some capacity so that they could justify this nationwide crackdown. And if you take a look at what they've been doing to J6ers, none of it makes sense. Nonviolent misdemeanors resulting in 3 years in solitary confinement? That doesn't make any sense.
Crazy. Am I a J6er?
But if there was a politician who got hurt because they didn't evacuate, and then these rioters stormed in, and a senator or a member of Congress got injured, then everyone would be like, well, of course the J6ers are getting locked up and there's a crackdown. These people attacked sitting members of Congress on the day of the vote count. But nothing happened. So they're all nonviolent misdemeanors, trespass, and they're trying to put people in prison for months or even... I met a woman. She said that they showed up several hours after all the fighting and rioting, and they walked up calmly. It was people walking around, went up to the door. It was wide open. They walked in, and there was no broken glass or anything. They looked around for a minute or whatever and then walked out, had no idea what was going on. And then a year or so later, the cops kicked their door in, arrested her and her husband, and they were sentenced to 18 months. And she was like, I don't understand. We showed up several hours after everything happened. We walked around. There was no signs. There was nothing. And we don't know what's happening. And now they're going to put us in prison for a year and a half. I'm like, well, that only makes sense in a scenario where politicians actually ended up getting hurt, which they did not. Yep. It makes no sense to put nonviolent trespass in prison for a year.
So it almost seems like an attempted like false flag incident, right? Where they're trying to bait something to happen.
That's what Baker says.
Yeah.
That the DOD was aware, wanted it to happen so they could use it as a justification for crackdown and arrest.
Yeah, I think the denial of extra police presence kind of indicates an allowance of the process to occur. Like you would, for sure, if there was a riot and you were concerned about stopping it at the Capitol, you'd bring a huge police presence, military presence if you need it.
Well, there's evidence that Donald Trump was asking for that stuff and that it was just not provided.
Like Nancy Pelosi, right?
I'm not sure if it was Pelosi or if it was the mayor of D.C., but
Bowser.
He was saying that, hey, no, Muriel Bowser was she the mayor of D.C.?
I think
I feel
so.
like she was the mayor of Chicago, but either way.
Bowser? No, she's D.C.
Who's she, D.C.? Okay, so...
yeah, Lightfoot was Chicago.
That's it. But yeah, point being, like, they denied, they said we can't come up with extra security and stuff. So, like, Trump was looking to prevent it. He was trying to get the law enforcement beefed up. And
They rejected him?
If I understand correctly, yeah, Bowser was like, we don't have the people, and I think that had something to do with the defund the police stuff. I'm not positive. That could be just hearsay.
Yeah, I went to Joe Biden's inauguration, and they definitely had the people for that one. They had all the gates up, and I think they brought in like the military in some capacity.
Oh, you were actually on the ground for both, so you saw a difference in security for the inauguration versus...
Yeah, Joe Biden's inauguration was like they had like the whole military out there with their fucking automatic weapons. It was like, what the fuck is this? I was trying to get a good video. There was no people there. It was just military. And
it activated the National Guard.
Yeah.
So,
But at Trump's thing, it was just like there's cops standing around, and I'm like, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. My dumbass walked up to the Capitol building. You know what I mean?
What was it?
Pretty lax. I said if my dumbass walked up to the Capitol building, it obviously had to be pretty lax security.
Mm-hmm.
There was none.
So,
after people tore down barricades, it was just open sidewalk to a building that's typically open to the public.
For hours, we were just chilling there. And a lot of people were just saying that they love America and that they felt like the election was rigged and they won a fair election. And that was pretty much the overarching theme of what I heard there.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.